Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice, musician turned entrepreneur and co-founder of 6th Ave Homes and 6th Ave Storytelling. Over the past 10 years, I have launched multiple successful businesses and have become obsessed with all things entrepreneurship and marketing. I've been on a personal quest to unpack what it takes to make and grow a great brand. One thing that I've discovered is that stories are powerful and that storytelling has the power to set a brand apart. Join me as I dive into the stories of the heavy-hitting leaders, entrepreneurs, artists, and business owners in our community to hear their biggest wins, greatest losses, and their best business secrets. There's a story behind every great brand. Welcome to Stories with Soul. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. We help small businesses grow by crafting and sharing their stories, because when small business thrives, cities and communities prosper. Stories with Soul is brought to you by the Fort Worth Business Press, your source for news and business information in and around Fort Worth. Sign up for the Business Press's twice daily newsletter or become an insider using the storytelling coupon code STORYTELLING10, all one word, to stay up to date with the people, companies, and issues that matter most to Fort Worth. Head to fortworthbusiness.com to subscribe. I am a huge fan of the Business Press. I've been a subscriber for years. It keeps me up to date with everything that is going on in Fort Worth. Love it. Go subscribe for the newsletter. You won't regret it. Welcome to Stories with Soul. I am your host, Jamie Ice. I'm joined by
Jimmy Williams.
Well, hey, Jimmy.
Hey, guys.
And, okay, we have a very, very special guest in the house tonight, or today. It's actually this morning.
Yes.
But our very special guest is Katey McFarlan, who is the founder and owner of Chronicles of Frivolity, which is a lifestyle beauty brand, blog, website. You have an empire, if you will.
I wouldn't call it that.
But there's a lot of umbrellas and arms.
Yes,
to
there's a
it.
lot.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep going because you have some crazy stats. I always read the stats in the beginning. So you started this in 2013. You've been doing it full time since 2014. She has this blows my mind. Over 215,000 Instagram followers. People that are like, I want to see what she's doing every single day. That's mind blowing. 2.5 million Pinterest views. 24,000 Pinterest followers. Your blog has had over 71,000 views. And is that like total or like a month?
Oh no, that's like
That's 1 month, 71,000 people.
Yeah,
go
and they're
to your blog.
individual. They don't count as like the same people coming back and back.
That's so
Oh
crazy.
my gosh.
And in 1 month, you average like 11,000 Instagram story views. That's so many people. I want to talk about how many people that is here in a second. You have taught at the Reward Style Conference and the Chloe Digital Conference. You were named a top beauty blogger by Reward Style and someone to follow by Southern Living. She has been featured in 1 million publications, including Modern Texas Living, Fort Worth Magazine, Fort Worth Home. You were picked as the best blogger in Fort Worth by Fort Worth Magazine. In Instagram, like big Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg Instagram, selected you out of 100 influencers to beta test their affiliate program. You have done partnerships with Neiman Marcus, Tula, Kiehl's, McKinsey Childs, Huggies, Michelle Watches, Sephora, Mary Kay, Pantene, Walmart. A lot. It's a big deal and a lot of followers. So welcome to Stories with Soul.
Thank you for having me.
That's a lot of stuff.
That is a lot of stuff. It's almost like we should hire her to do our Stories with Soul.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Did you know? So when I was thinking about 15,000 people, that's like a big city.
I never view it like that.
How do you not view it like that's so many people?
You know, there are times that I can feel the weight of it, like when I'm changing a diaper, my 4-year-old barfs, and then my phone's going off. I'm like, oh, okay, there's a lot of people there. But day to day, I just don't. I view I'm not numbers driven. I'm more relationship driven. And so I think of it when the people email me or I meet them. But I still, to this day, feel like my readers are my Nana and my mom.
Where they are more than that. Okay. I also, to me, when I read that, I was like, that's the population of a big city. And so I Googled populations of a few cities.
I was literally just doing.
So you have more followers than people in Richmond, Virginia, Spokane, Washington, and Des Moines, Iowa. I think that's like the capital of Iowa.
Well, I feel like you're making me really nervous. I'm never going to post again. I'm going to be like, I can't post this.
You have your own city, like a major city is basically what we're saying.
Okay, so Katey, we were talking about this a little bit ago. You are. I know you do not refer to yourself as this, and you're probably going to be annoyed that I'm going to say, but you're an influencer.
Yes, and I cringe at the word, but yes.
But when you're like at a party or something, and some people, some of the 210,000 people are not there, and they don't know who you are. Like someone's like, what do you do? What do you say?
So in social settings, my husband's much more outgoing than I am. And so I usually kind of hide behind him. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, please don't ask what I do. Please don't ask what I do. Please don't ask what I do. And then they always do. And I say like, I have 2 kids and I'm home with them. And I also kind of work in like digital marketing, and I try to mumble it. And then they're like, so what do you mean by digital marketing? And I'm like, I just help brands. And then someone there is always like, oh, and I follow you. So then I feel like this liar, and I'm like, I have a blog, but like no one reads it, and so I kind of I get called out on it.
It's just a bigger city than Spokane, Washington. Like, it's
so would you say blog? Like a blog? I have a blog.
I would say I'm a blogger,
digital
yeah.
marketing.
I want to ask this. Okay, why do you say that? Why do you kind of like
about that?
Yeah.
Why am I self-conscious, or why do I say blogger over
No.
influencer?
Why do you say why do you? Well, 2 questions. Why do you cringe at the influencer, and then which I think is related to the other question of like, why are you like, I'm in this social setting.
So
I don't want to say this. Like,
I worked in PR when we stopped pitching traditional media and started pitching new media with bloggers. And I think I was there for the years where I'm having to fight for brands like, no, you need to invest money in these bloggers over me spending 8 hours pitching journalists. And not to say that there's not a time and place for both, but for product sales. And so I think it's ingrained in me that people don't trust it and they don't know it. And now they do.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I think I just have this feeling of people are like, well, is that a job? Do you actually get paid doing that? Even though now it's the most powerful advertising tool we have because it's humanizing word of mouth.
So you feel like it's more people don't trust it, or do you feel kind of braggadocious?
or it's like it's amateurish, like.
Maybe amateurish. Maybe, well, why don't you just work at an agency?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I am working with agencies. So I think there's that. And then in doing this, I mean, it used to just be blogging, and then Instagram came, and you used Instagram as a tool to promote your blog. And that's kind of the class we joke. We kind of call blogging like pledge classes. And so I'm like, well, that's the pledge class I started with. But then about 5 years later.
Because it's not as common as much anymore?
It's not as common. Okay. Now people just start with Instagram.
Yeah, so there's less bloggers these days.
Right. And so I would say you call yourself an influencer if you just use Instagram, and then you call yourself a blogger if you have a blog. But I think the part of influencer that I cringe at is I don't want people to think that I think I influence them, because I don't.
The name in and of itself.
Right. The name in and of itself, I'm like, oh, makes me feel awkward.
I am an influencer.
Right.
But I can relate, like being at some parties and stuff, when people, less so now, because now I'm like, I'm in real estate. Right. But sometimes, like, I don't want to tell, like, saying I'm a musician, like, it feels like sometimes I just don't want attention. I don't want to have to explain. Yeah, and then there's always like, well, what's your band called? And then I tell them, they're like, never heard of you. And or sometimes they, or
then they like pull out their phone and they like look up Spotify right then and there, and you're like, this is awkward.
But sometimes it's like it feels, and you also know that, like, if I'm in a small group of people, like, I'm gonna steal the thunder, because being a musician is more exciting than being an accountant. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But I can relate to like sometimes I just don't want to say it because I don't want to deal with that whole.
Right.
I don't want to steal that guy's thunder. I know that sounds bad. Maybe.
You guys just are so cool in here.
But you're like,
No, I get it. Or it kind of leads to these follow-up questions of, oh, my aunt owns a business, and could you like promote that? And then my husband's favorite thing is, because I love small businesses and promoting them, it's like my heart and soul. My husband's always like, you are not a not-for-profit. This is your job. Stop doing favors. And I'm like, oh, but that's what I love to do. So no, I get it.
But I don't know. I feel like it's less. If you tell someone you're a musician, it's like, okay, cool, play on stage. But if you tell someone you're an influencer, like, there's so many people out there doing that.
It means a totally different thing.
There's a lot of people trying it. Yeah. There's a lot of like wannabe influencers.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think if you have a page, you can. I think we're content creators first and
content creators
foremost.
are good. Yeah,
so
but very few people are like true. I make money doing. I'm successful.
Right, and so I think
I'm
that
bigger
there's
than Spokane,
different
Washington.
levels.
Yeah, because
there's different levels.
You're right.
But you're like you are like. There's a lot of people who want to be. There's a lot of people want to be athletes or want to be. But you're like in the NBA.
Easily.
Or you go to LA and everyone's an actress, but like very people are like really.
I would say it's very similar to that, but also like I'm the biggest hot mess out of the people doing it because a lot of people doing it are far more professional than me, and I'm always telling my manager, I'm like, okay, well I can't do that because I'm picking up my kids and then I'm taking them to dance and then I'm doing this, and so
it's not as glamorous as.
No.
Okay, so I want to. So this. So again, I think you hinted something. This is a profession or an identity. I think more people want it more for like the identity, than the. I want to be famous,
Right.
But it's something a lot of people want to be and do. But it's also very new. Like this didn't exist.
Oh, it is, yeah.
25 years ago. It's a new thing. A lot of people want to do it but don't really know how to do it or haven't had success doing it. And it's also like the wild, wild west because it's new. Like there's no like playbook. Like there are playbooks for like how to start a business. There's no playbook for like.
There's no playbook.
How to be, become a successful influencer.
Yeah.
So how the heck did you wind up here having 200,000
How to
people?
get started?
Yeah.
How to get started?
Take us back.
Okay.
Take us on a journey.
Take us back.
How did I get started?
Because you were kind of early. You started in 2013.
Yeah. So I worked in PR, and like I said, I started to see
You went to school
switch.
for PR?
Yes.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to the University of Texas at Arlington, which I'll kind of backtrack and talk about.
Are you from
that.
here?
I am from that. I'm from here. I'm Fort Worth born and raised, born at Harris Southwest.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I went to school for PR, and I worked in PR, and I saw this shift, and I kind of shifted. But the reason I got into PR was when I was in middle school, which I have to think back to what age you are in middle school, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder, discoidal lupus. My mom has.
Oh, okay. Is that what your wife has?
No,
she has
Sjogren's.
But she has the lupus kind of thing.
It's I don't know the science behind it.
But but it's an autoimmune disease.
Yeah, my mom has RA, my aunt has lupus. It kind of has traits of both, but discoidal lupus is interesting because it presents itself in the skin a lot. So you get this butterfly rash, which think of like going to the beach and you burn. So you kind of have blisters. And when
it's painful.
It is painful, and I'm in middle school, so I have joint pain and I'm sick and I'm tired, but mostly I just want to be able to go to sleepovers and girls not be like, why do you have blisters on your face? And so
how were you?
I was in 7th grade.
And this is like that awkward.
Oh, you're awkward.
That makes it even harder.
And so to get diagnosed with an autoimmune, I mean, it can take years. You've got to find a rheumatologist. I had to find a pediatric rheumatologist, which those aren't as common. You're going to dermatologists. So my parents had to take me to pediatric rheumatologists in Fort Worth, Dallas, Austin, Atlanta, Oklahoma, all over.
Oh my God.
Because you have this skin stuff.
Yes, and I'm
they didn't know what was
sick,
happening.
and they didn't know. I mean, they're taking biopsies of the skin and stitching it, and it was a whole ordeal.
That sounds traumatic.
But you have different markers in your blood, and so they're trying to figure out what it is and how to treat it. And so this was a period of about like 18 months of getting diagnosed. And so in that, we'd wait for appointments, we'd go and they'd say, I'm so sorry, you're sick. We're seeing this. It's eating away at your cartilage. It's doing all these things. But I haven't seen this before, or I don't know what to give you. And so you should go here. And so then we'd wait a few more months for an appointment. And so my mom kind of helped me, and she'd be like, okay, well, let's find some products that will help you. And so we would go to these stores and we would buy concealers and lotions. And at the time, I found European blogs. And Europe kind of started this of like this online journaling. And I just thought it was so cool that these women were reviewing products.
So this is probably like early 2000s?
Yeah. And so really early, and
so y'all just Googling.
We're just Googling. We're just searching. And, it's like they're not what they are now. And I would email these people and I would be like, hi, I live in Texas and I'm sick. Can you ship me this? And they wouldn't respond because they're like, this is a girl asking. Like, I had no clue how much it costs to ship things from Europe over here. But I'm like, will you send me this? And so I kind of turned my room into a blog now. I would take pieces of paper and I would write down products that I bought, prescriptions I got, makeup I got, and I would swatch it and I would write, this covered my rash for 4 hours, but then when I went to lunch, it went away. And
like you took pictures of it, or you just had a journal?
I just had pieces of paper and I taped it all over the walls in my room. And it was
You're experimenting.
Yes. And I would like cut out magazines and be like, okay, this is what I'm going to try next. And so I knew whatever I wanted to do was something that would get information to women when they needed it, which is kind of like the Chronicles of Frivolity. Because if you're talking about skincare and beauty products, you're like, who needs that? That's not important. But for people going through things like that, it's kind of everything to make yourself feel more normal.
Yeah, it's essential. Yeah.
And so...
because it affects your confidence.
Right. Because I just wanted to go to school. I remember, like, I was a cheerleader in middle school, and these other moms would, like, not want me to be allowed to be a cheerleader because I would miss practice, because I would be so sick. And I just didn't want to feel more different. And so I was like, oh, I want my skin to look normal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finally was diagnosed at the OU Medical Center, given medicine, put into remission, and my life was normal, but I still had a passion for trying products. And
because it was kind of a game changer.
Yeah, it was like what I was doing and what I knew. And so I said, okay, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to help people that are like me. And so originally I said, okay, I'll do nursing, which is why I went to UTA. They have an incredible nursing program. And I got there like a semester in.
Oh, you started in nursing?
Yes, I started in nursing. But I was still in college, like trying products. And at this time, there were more and more blogs. And so I found myself staying up all night reading blogs, but not doing anything with nursing. And so I went to my counselor, switched to PR, and I was like, okay, I'll write press releases for brands with makeup, and that'll get journalists to cover it. So I called my dad. My dad has been an engineer at Lockheed for 35 years. And I'm like, Dad, I know you thought I was going to do science. I'm actually going to do PR. And he was like, okay, so what are you going to do with that? I'm going to have a website, and I'm going to write about skincare, and I'm going to work in PR, and that's what I'm going to do. And he's like, people won't pay you for that. And I was like, yes, they will.
This episode of Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling. At 6th Ave Storytelling, we know that stories aren't just for bedtime, they're powerful marketing tools, and we've seen what they can do. Want to see for yourself? Download our free PDF, The Storytelling Pathway, on our website, 6avstorytelling.com. It's everything your business needs to be successful. This is what I've used to grow my businesses and hundreds of others. It's a strategy that has led to #1 albums, built large followings, and has helped generate millions of dollars in revenue, thousands of leads, and tons of traffic. I've seen client after client reach their goals, which is why I'm crazy excited to share it with you today. I'm offering this for free because it's my personal mission to support small business owners and entrepreneurs no matter where they are at on their journey. Because small businesses are the heartbeat of a city, and they really are what make it special. 6th Avenue Storytelling has helped brands across the country grow their business using these exact steps. Head to 6avstorytelling.com and download the Storytelling Pathway to get your step-by-step guide today.
Stories with Soul is brought to you by Fort Worth Business Press. The Fort Worth Business Press has been instrumental for me as a business owner. They were actually the first publication to ever cover 6th Avenue Homes and also 6th Avenue Storytelling, which were huge wins for our companies. I also have been following along for years. I've been a subscriber. It has allowed me to keep up to date with everything that is happening in the business community and see what other business owners are doing and just stay involved in all sort of the economic development of what is happening in Fort Worth. If you are in any way involved in business, you should go subscribe and sign up for their publication, sign up for their twice daily newsletter, and they're actually offering a storytelling discount right now if you listen to the podcast. Become an insider using the storytelling code storytelling10, all one word, lowercase, to stay up to date with the people and companies and issues that matter most. Visit fortworthbusinesspress.com to sign up today.
And so I switched, went into PR.
And so even though you said that, you were like...
Oh, yeah, because my mom was like, honey, I'm going to help you. So my mom was like driving to UTA, taking blog photos for me, driving back home, and I'd upload them. And
so you started your blog in
college.
Oh,
yeah.
So when you switched to PR, you were already you made a blog?
I hadn't done that. I didn't do my blog until the very end of college, but
But you knew you wanted to.
I knew that's what I wanted to do. And so I started working at a PR firm in college and to kind of get a taste of it. And we had lifestyle brands, restaurants, chefs, and beauty brands, and it was really fun. And at that time, we kind of were focusing our efforts to pitch new media, bloggers, people that had been on reality TV and then had websites. And so we started seeing, I remember we had paid a blogger, a DFW blogger for something to post on Christmas Eve, and like the brand sold out. And I was like, this is a thing.
Wow,
and
crazy.
So my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was like, okay, you need to start this blog. Like, you've got to stop spending your time pitching bloggers, and like, you've got to do this because you're the one that's passionate with the background. And so I started it. I didn't want to start it alone. So one of my best friends was like, okay, I'll start it with you, but I'm not going to do this forever. And so she started it with me, and she did it with me for a few months.
Oh, you had a friend that did it with you?
Yes, she's like so loyal. She's like, I'll help you, but I'm not doing this forever.
Yeah.
And so I started it, and then
and to clarify, this is still like beauty, makeup products.
yeah, I mostly was doing beauty and some fashion.
Skin
yeah,
kind of
but
stuff.
mostly like my passion was skincare, and then
Because it was such a big deal
because
to
that
you,
was such a
yeah.
big deal, and then I kind of I covered fashion because that's what we were seeing be successful in PR when we were pitching fashion bloggers. Beauty blogging was still, there was YouTube. Like people, if they were into beauty, they did YouTube, not as much blogging.
Wait, so this was 2013? This is, okay, that's around. I'm trying to remember the context. MySpace is like gone by that point.
We weren't doing that.
Facebook is rocking and rolling.
Yes, but that was
Instagram? Did Instagram exist then?
Instagram existed, but you
Like
weren't
started?
like
There's no
posting
videos.
content there.
But
no.
YouTube was kind of exploding at that time.
YouTube was big. And so people were mostly sharing fashion to blogs. If they liked beauty, they would do YouTube. And I, for putting my life on the internet, am actually like pretty reserved with things. So I was like, I'll never do YouTube, but I'll write behind a computer screen. That's fine. And so I started to do posts. I would work all day in PR, and then I would do my posts at night. And then a few months in, my boss, my husband, well, he's still my boyfriend at the time, but everybody was like, okay, I think you need to do one or the other. And so I picked the blog. And I remember the weekend
When you say one or the other, from working
PR
versus-
PR
Oh, okay,
or blogging,
Like, you
because I
can't-
just
you can't
wasn't,
do
I
both.
wasn't having a life. I mean, I was in
Because it
PR,
takes
you
a
have
lot. It
events.
takes a lot of time.
A lot of time, yeah.
to write a blog.
Exactly. So
So
I was
you're
working
working-
PR like 8 to 5, going to opening events, and then like my boyfriend would like take pictures in my apartment of like, I'd be like, here, I'm gonna hold my hands out, and I've swatched makeup, and it's like 10 p.m. and I was like, take a picture and I can upload it. And so I was doing that all weekends. I just wasn't having a life. And so he was like, okay, you've got to pick one or the other. And so I picked blogging, and my boss was really supportive of it. But I remember like still applying for jobs when I quit, because I was like, this isn't
So
gonna
you
work.
quit. You went in like, I'm giving
Yeah, I
you
went
my
in.
notice.
I told her, I was like, this is what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to do that. She was really supportive.
Were you worried about how you were going to eat?
Oh, yes. I remember.
How were you? Were your parents still supporting you at all? or like-
No. I was completely on my own.
Had you made any money yet doing it?
No, I had made $0. I mean, I look back and I'm like, what did I do? But I just remember on a weekend being like,
Was your
okay, I'm
boyfriend
really
still
going
like,
to do this.
Was he helping you?
No,
So how did you pay the bills?
So I painted art.
okay.
I painted. That was like my one thing that when I worked in PR and blogged, if I had an hour, I was like, I'm going to paint.
You still paint?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I would if I had time, but I have 2 kids. I painted, and people on Instagram would be like, oh, can we buy your art? And so I was like, okay, maybe I could like pay a month's rent if I did that. And then I quit PR, and I was like, well, freelance some PR. I had a couple of small businesses that were like, we can't pay agency rate, but could we pay you? And just like, okay, I'll freelance their PR. I mean, looking back, it was just, I could have only done it at the age I was, because now I would be like, who would do that? I was living in uptown Dallas with like a rent that is equivalent to my
that's
mortgage
expensive,
now.
yeah.
I know. I mean, I wasn't a numbers person, and I was dating an accountant, and he's like, what? Okay,
Well,
yeah,
he's
you should
telling you.
do this, but like, I don't know how it's going to work. No. And I would like make a crock pot meal, and I was like, we're eating this for 4 weeks because we can't, we're just going to freeze it and keep reheating it up. But yeah, so I did that. And I remember like getting on my laptop saying, I'm going to have to apply for a job. And I told my mom, I go, maybe I could be a preschool teacher, because I'd get off work early enough to keep blogging. And she was like,
Oh my
"Okay,
gosh.
what are you doing?" But I painted, and that's how I kind of
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
And so you had an Instagram.
Yes,
you
I had an
mentioned
Instagram.
That. And was that tied to your blog at the time?
It was tied. So I had my blog Instagram, but my personal Instagram, more people followed, which is now the Instagram
And were they
I
like
use.
just like your friends and stuff, or were you already?
I remember
like
at the time I had 10,000 followers.
That's a lot.
Oh, crap.
So you were already making cool
Yeah, but I think it was because when I was in college, I was working in PR. So instead of like going to sorority parties, I was going to like opening events in Dallas for stuff. And so people would
thought
share
she's
me.
fun.
Well,
let's follow her.
No, but I would share these events, and then people that were there would reshare them, and so people kind of started following me with that. I think a lot of PR people have.
Can we unpack this for just
bigger
a second?
Instagrams?
Because I just want to say, so this isn't normal. Like a normal person doesn't like. I started Instagram and like 200 people. Like normal people don't just like get on Instagram and 10,000 people start following them. Is it? So you think part of it is because you're doing these fun things?
I think I was working in PR.
You dress really cool.
Were you good at like capturing what your life, like what you were doing?
I mean, I was the girl that like before I was going to a sorority party, like they were taking pictures of my outfit and I was posting it, and so I kind of enjoyed it. But also, it's truly a God thing. Like I was right place, right time. I was doing these opening events. I would tag, the athletes that were there, and then they would repost it, and so then people are like, "Oh, we'll follow this chick." And so I think it just
there was a little bit of like a science to to knowing how to work something and grow from PR. But I would also say you are aspirational in a lot of ways. I think like to women, they look at like she dresses so cool, or hair, like it doesn't work if you don't like look the way you do on some level. And people like you have a style that people like I want to follow, because so much of that is like people want aspiration. Like I want to follow and look and dress and have this vibe.
Yeah, and I think just people started knowing. They were like, oh, people are creating these accounts and they're sharing things. And I think because I had been reading blogs since I was in middle school, I was like, oh, yeah, this is what people in Europe share. So I'm just going to share that here.
You naturally, So
I think it was just like this natural thing, and also the industry I was working in.
And in DFW, no one else is probably really doing it.
No, nobody was. And so it kind of worked. But I was sharing my painting on Instagram, and then that's how I was like paying my rent. And then I also said, okay, well, I'll just freelance some PR for people. And I remember praying, and I've been like, Lord, okay, I need you to just like match half my salary so that I know you want me to do this in 6 months, which in PR wasn't a ton. I was like, okay, I think I'll do that for me. But at the time, Amber and Baxter, they are based in Dallas. They started Reward Style, which is the largest affiliate agency for bloggers. This
is Like to Know It.
Like to Know It, yeah. They had started that. And so this was, I think I quit in like January.
So were you friends with them?
No, but they were in Dallas, and I was working with so many like bloggers in Dallas. So I kind of felt like I was, I don't know, 3 degrees removed from them.
Okay.
And I quit. And within a few months, I got an email from them saying like, hey, would you like to join Reward Style? And I was like, oh, okay, I can get paid for this. And so like my salary ended up being matched within a few months, which isn't
crazy.
Normal. It's truly just like right place, right time.
For people that don't know this world, I know a little bit about like to know and Reward Style, because my wife is like clicking the thing and buying the things, and it shows up on my credit card. Reward Style and Like to Know is how on Instagram and on blog you make money. You can essentially like post something, and someone, if they like it, can click it, like to know it, and then it tracks it.
Right. So there's a million different platforms now and a million different ways to make money, but they are like kind of the original.
Yeah.
It's just like a sales associate. If you walk in Nordstrom, you buy a pair of shoes, that associate's making a certain percentage for helping you. And so she was seeing the power that online content creation had, and people were buying these shoes because they saw it on Instagram, not because they walked in a store and saw them on a shelf. And so she kind of got brands to agree, like, if you're going to pay a sales associate a percentage, pay these content creators a percentage. And
it'll probably work better.
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's how it works.
So they essentially like gave you half your salary, kind of like they were like, we spot you this money, or
no. It's,
or you were
you
posting
don't
stuff
get
and you were
paid out
selling
until you get your first $100 commission, which, let me tell you, I can sell 200 things on I won't say the retailer, I don't think I'm allowed to, on one specific retailer, and I might make like, depending on their percentage, like $48. So it takes a while. You have to get a lot of sales.
So you were getting a lot of sales though, if you were.
I was, because there weren't a lot of people doing it.
But what were the sales on through this company? Was it through clothing?
Through
was it
clothing,
fashion,
so
makeup?
you can link anything. And,
Okay.
and I try to think back of like what was on the platform now. Now
Yeah.
anything's on it. But I think back then it was like Nordstrom, Amazon, a couple other things. So
Sure.
I would, instead of just, because I would do these blog posts with my outfits or beauty, and I would share them, and then I just went back and I would link them.
And people don't know, like, you can make money doing this. I don't think people understood that, and they might still not understand. But you have this blog, so you're posting about what I'm learning.
Right.
These are the beauty products and the clothes I think are really cool. Posting those, you're monetizing it using this platform.
Yes.
And then as people who follow your 10,000 followers, which has grown, those people, if they click it and buy it, you'll get a commission.
Yeah. And then that's half of how people make money. And then there's also now people that I guess they work to create the digital content for the brands, because what they can see based on conversion and commission is what the brand's ROI is going to be. So they can say,
well, explain that. That was like marketing lingo.
So
say it for.
So because I have 8 years of commission on Reward Style, and I have all these analytics with Google, they can tell a brand, okay, if you are going to give her a sunscreen to share, if she shares it Tuesday at 9 a.m., we can tell you how many people will probably buy it based on how many stories she shares, what type of content she's sharing, whether it's a video, a blog post, a story series. They can say that. So then brands will say, okay, well, instead of me hiring a photographer, hiring, all these people to put together a campaign for myself, let's just hire bloggers.
So
to
you're
do it.
making the content. You're like it's not an ad, but you're like, I'm doing the photo shoot, I'm doing styling, I'm doing.
They can pay me for that, or they can get the digital rights for me to use for their social media.
But you're like, I am way better at it, because look how.
No, I think it's easier for brands. It's easier because it's
easier, but you know your audience and you know how your PR background, and I've built this thing. I know what sells and
exactly, and I can say I know that this is going to be your market that sells. So people are just trying to match target market to target market, and so they're then, instead of because with PR, you've got the creation and the implementation. And instead of the brand implementing it, which is what they used to have to do, now they're like, I can go to these agencies. There's DBA, Estate 5 that manage bloggers. And they can say, Estate 5, I've got $2 million. Our target market is 30-year-old moms. Here you go. And then they can narrow down, okay, here's the people that you need to implement this.
And so some would argue that doing that is more effective than paying for a fancy TV advertisement.
Yes.
Or paying for print for something in a magazine. And I think part of it is, I think one of the reasons it's so effective is because it doesn't feel like advertising.
It's entertainment because of the content, and it's relational because I have my own bloggers that I follow because I relate to her in motherhood. I relate to her with her fashion. I relate to her with her relationship with her family. And so there's definitely a difference between wanting a product and needing a product. And I think bloggers are able to humanize the need. And you're going to need this because this is what I use and this is how my life is. And so maybe your life is like me or you relate to me in somehow. And so you might need it too.
That's right. Yeah. And I feel like that's just something that the trust, the authenticity, the reality of it. I mean, it's so hard for a brand to pay for someone to feel that. Right.
Like or to feel authentic.
It's
storytelling. It's storytelling.
Exactly.
Telling great stories.
Yeah, and exactly. And it's coming from a person that's like, this is how I personally use it. And you can trust me because I've also shared all this other content.
Exactly.
Therefore, this is why you can trust me with this.
Well, and my loyalty is to my audience, not a brand.
That's right.
There's a million different brands. My loyalty is to these people that I want to try products for and I want to help. And they are going to find different people they relate to and trust in.
Because you can abuse that trust really.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They can, an audience can smell like disingenuous, like if you're getting paid
100%.
off. 100%.
And I tell people all the time, I say no to 90%. And the really cool part of my job now is it's transformed into product creation. And I don't necessarily share
You're creating
that
products for yourself or for other people?
for brands. So like one brand since 2015, I've been able to be on their team and I can come to them and
Can you say what brand it is, or is it a secret?
I can't say what brand.
Okay.
But I'm able to come to them and I'm able to say, okay, so here's what people are asking for. And because I'll do focus groups with my readers.
Is this makeup or is this clothes?
It's skincare.
Skincare, okay.
Can't say anymore.
Does it start with...
Yeah.
Does it rhyme?
Does it sound like
I don't
knack?
know any. I don't know any skincare, but I can't even rhyme anything.
No, but I'm able to say, like, you know, they're looking at numbers all day and they're looking at what are we selling? Okay, we're selling face wash the most. And
you're the user.
And I'm the user. And I'm able to say, well, this is why they're using it and this is where they're using it. And they actually want you to have a pump instead of a squeeze tube because they say they have to, you know, it's getting everywhere.
And they're paying for you.
And they're paying for that. And so I'm able to go create it.
Did you go to them and say, you should hire me because I know? Or
no, they came to me. They came to me because I was the first blogger they worked with and they started to see, this
You were the first blogger they worked with? Interesting. I want to know who it is so badly.
Off the air.
Yeah. Okay, so you're making 3 ways. One, when you like sell this thing, here's my handbag. If you want to get it, you can get it here. Like a commission, so to speak.
Commission.
2, you're helping create content for people. And then 3, you're also literally helping create a product.
Yes.
And then is there any other? You also do you do ads on your
I don't.
site? Okay.
I don't.
But some people
I don't want
do
it
that.
to slow down. Some people do that. I mean, pre-COVID, things were very different. We hosted events for brands. We did a lot of things like that. We traveled a lot and would, follow this brand to all these cities while they, launch something, and we would come and do that with them. But now that's not as much. Just kind of coincided with me having 2 kids, and I'm like, I can't travel for that. But there's lots of different ways.
What I love about it is it's not. I think the myth out there is you're just Kim Kardashian hanging out, taking selfies. But it's a legit business, and
it is
doing a lot. There's a lot of moving pieces.
It is,
and there's a hustle, and I love a good hustle, like a really smart. Like, how do I monetize different avenues to diversify? What's coming in?
I think the most interesting, I don't think people realize the amount of effort and strategy that goes into creating good content. And I, for one,
it's an art.
I don't do any of this stuff in this world at all.
And by stuff, what do you mean?
Well, literally anything that we have talked about for the last 30 minutes or whatever.
I tried to get you to post on Instagram.
Yeah.
You didn't film how you did your hair this morning before you walked out the door.
Yeah, well,
I tag you.
Put it under a sink, and
I make it for you.
Yeah. Jamie just tells me what to do, and I just kind of do it. I believe in it 100%. Right. You don't have to convince me that it works. It's great,
but it's so much work. So much work.
Yes, and so Jamie's like, okay, let's do this. You need to do this, and it'll take me 30 minutes to just write copy for one Instagram post. And I'm like, I can't do it. I literally can't do it. And I feel like I'm pretty smart. I'm a smart guy. I can figure this out. I know strategy.
You're kind of smart, I guess.
I feel like I know business strategy. I feel like I can do this. And then, but man, coming up with just an Instagram post and then doing that consistently, being willing to get in front of a camera, do it, show products, talk about that, and then the strategy behind, hey, when am I going to post? How am I going to post? What the copy is going to be? What product do I need to roll out with this? I mean, if you're managing 5 or 6 brands, right? How do I do it? When do I do it so my audience doesn't get bored or annoyed or frustrated or feel disingenuine? I mean, that alone right there is so much brain power and space. It's it takes... I just have the most immense amount of respect because there is no way I could ever do it. No way. It's just blows my mind.
You could if you find what you're passionate about. But
no, Katey,
he couldn't do it.
No, I could not. I absolutely couldn't.
So, but were you doing this all? You do it all yourself. You have a management company now.
I do. So I
but
signed
that's
with
newer, right?
Yes. 2019. What did I write
So were
down?
you doing all this
2019?
by yourself?
Yeah, I was doing all that by myself. Well, and that's
And
my
doing
worst.
the deals? Were you like negotiating?
Yes,
You a lawyer?
yes. No, I'm not a lawyer. My friend.
Did you have a lawyer though?
Well, one of my best friends, Diana Oates, her husband's like with Jackson Walker. He's a real attorney, but I would be like, Brian,
Shout
somebody
out.
used my
Shout out.
photos
Sponsor.
illegally. Can you help? So I would, but no, that was my biggest mistake was I didn't hire on soon enough because
Okay.
I think as any entrepreneur, like this is my child, no one's going to love it like I do. And I also, for being someone that got married young and had kids young, I have like commitment phobia with hiring because I'm very, like if I hire you, we're like family for life. Like this we're
okay.
close. And I,
Okay, so and was he your like a childhood? Well, your husband's name is Paul.
yes. I met him in college.
In college.
He went to Texas Tech, but he was dating one of my friends. and
Y'all
so
got
we
married
met.
early.
Yeah, well, he's 4 years older than me, but yeah, I got married at 23, and I would look at my kids and I'm like, why do my parents? Oh no, I would never do that.
So, but you have commit. You're like,
Yes, I was like, oh, I love you. We're
with
gonna get
you.
married, but then with work, I'm like, my husband was like, you need to hire somebody, and I was like, oh
Do you have an assistant?
no, I don't.
You never have had an assistant?
No, well, like email assistants, I've had people do that.
So you are writing the post, taking the pic. Are you uploading it, or is like a
I
coder
upload it
guy
all.
is doing
Yeah.
that?
No, I do that. I mean,
You're
I'm
man-
hired
This
out.
is stressing me out already.
I'm hired out.
You manage your own website.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. So like
Well, you can.
Code.
I've hired people like coding it in an HTML. Yeah, I mean, I've hired people to design it, but
yeah,
then
but
I
then you're
do it all
running it.
every
You're
day.
making the blog, and you're not hiring copywriters.
No.
Oh my gosh.
The only-
No,
so
I'm
the-
an Enneagram 1. Like, I'm so obsessed with morality.
you're a
And I'm like,
1?
is that right if someone's reading my blog thinking it's not me? Because people do that. A lot of people hire copywriters. But I'm like, no, they come to me. It has to be my voice.
Oh my gosh.
So and you're doing these business deals and like, were you always kind of business savvy? I mean, you're talking about in your room and you're laying out all these products. That sounds.
I think I'm creative. I don't know if my husband's always like, stop making it personal. And I'm like, oh, but it is personal. So no, it was horrible that I didn't hire somebody on earlier.
Okay, we're like 40 minutes in. I stopped her story because
Yeah.
on all these. Okay, so you quit your job.
Yes.
Start this blog.
Yes.
Paying for with art.
art.
However, I would argue that it wasn't the art; it was your popularity of your Instagram account and
Right.
like followers.
No, you're right. The art was probably
art was
horrible, and people are
probably-
like, "Why are we buying this?"
The art is good.
Anybody still have those?
Yes, you know what? I have a reader here, and she still has it up in her living room. I'm like, that is so nice because I don't have any of that.
If you have a Katey McFarlan original, we would love to know.
She's
about it.
a nurse at
we'll
Good
purchase
Children's,
it.
and she'll
Yeah, we'll
like
purchase
post it. I'm like, oh.
But you know how to like take something and grow it and monetize it, and so
Yes.
that's cool. So you quit. So one of my questions I was going to ask is, and it kind of goes into the juggling all these hats. Is I feel like free time, and when you go from like a well structured job to like solo, I'm doing something myself. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm starting
Right.
something. Free time can cripple a person. I always tell my real estate agents, the beauty of real estate is you have all this free time. The hard thing with real estate, you have all this free time.
Right.
Were you pretty disciplined at like?
Yes, I am neurotic. Like
Because you're
that's-
Enneagram 1.
Yes, and I
You're
work.
neurotic. Tell me about this.
I work better for myself than I ever would being employed
So
by
would you like
someone.
show up? What is it?
Oh,
walk me
I
through?
mean, I did not have kids and I wasn't married, and I would get up at 5 a.m. every day because I was like, we got to start. And then I would work until midnight. And I look back and
No
I'm like, why
way.
didn't I sleep?
The grind.
Like,
That's
I had
the
all
grind
this
phase.
time.
There's
Always a grind. Okay, talk about the grind. So you put in a lot of time to.
Yes. People will email now. Not as much anymore. I think 3 years ago, blogging was really appealing, and I would get dozens of emails a day. Hey, Katey, I want to quit my job so I can be home with my kids. And I'm like, don't do it. You
Yeah.
don't want to do this. You're
Yeah.
never gonna sleep.
Because it takes so much time.
It's so much time. And so, but I've always been very structured. It's funny. The questions you asked when you said in the email, you said like, what's your management style? So I was actually talking to my team Friday, and I was texting them, and I was like, okay, what's my management style? I don't really know what my management style is. And they all were like, you're crazy about schedules. I'm just very like, this is what we're doing. I mean, the worst.
So your photo shoots, and would you like, I'm going to write for these hours?
Yeah, I mean, I plan my day minute to minute, a week in advance. I have my editorial calendar planned months in advance.
Oh, so the content you're doing, you're planning months in advance.
Yes. Like we book now for like March. And
no way.
Yeah, everything.
And you know like what product it's going to be, what your story is
so I'll test product now for, 6 months from now. Because I mean, well, A, for skincare to work at a cellular level, you have to use it 6+ weeks. And then B, if I know that maybe January is going to have a focus of health related products, well, then I know that any health related product I'm using now, I need to share in January.
And when you quit your job, you were already doing this and thinking.
Yes, because in PR you do this. I mean, this is how you plan to pitch for media.
Yeah. So, okay. So you quit your job, but you are already working, 1 million hours a week doing your own blog stuff. Mm-hmm. But you quit your job. You're in full time, 5 a.m. to 12. How long did that? We call this the grind period.
Yeah.
Every single episode.
You took the leap, and then you got to grind.
Yeah. Everybody takes the leap. They either quit their job. They say screw it to everybody, I'm just doing it, or whatever it is, and then they have this like grind period. How long did that last? I think it was pretty short from the time that you
I was making money doing this, but I was within a few months, but I was always terrified that I would lose it. And so I remember being on my honeymoon and a brand emailed and they were upset about something on a campaign. And so I literally looked at my husband, which I look back and I'm like, why did I do this? I was like, I have to go back to the room and I have to respond to this email. So I feel like I was still in the grind period then. So I feel like it was 2 to 3 years of just, I'm at your disposal 24/7, whatever you need.
Yes. And and that's where I always stop. And I'm like, okay, whenever people are like, I want to do X, right? And if it happens to be, a blogger, let's say, I want to be a blogger. And then I think everybody, whenever we're talking about it here, you just like, it's just 2 to 3 years. And it's 2 to 3 years of literally working from 5 a.m. to midnight. And it's just this.
Because if you don't show up, content doesn't get made.
Exactly.
Right.
But the thing is people think that like, oh, I can just do this. But what they miss is there is a grind period.
There is.
And it is years.
Well, and
always
an audience is relationship building, and relationship takes time. And so I kind of like Dear Abby'd myself, where I marketed myself to my readers as like, you can reach out to me and I'll answer any question you have. And so my management team, they actually have a binder at their office of all of these, like, maybe to them it's different types of emails, because most people email bloggers are like, hey, what should I wear to this? But mine are like, hey, I'm going through chemo and you shared this non-toxic shampoo and it helped me, but it's back ordered. Can you get it from the brand? And so then I call the brand and I'm like, you need to send her a year's supply of this and all these things. So they've printed it all out.
No way.
Of like,
That's
this is my
cool.
why. And like when you work with her, this is what you're getting. Like this is the trust I've built. And so that takes years. And so
this is my why. What do you mean by that? What does that mean?
All right, guys, we're interrupting your podcast experience once again.
I know. I'm sorry.
But we are giving you something for free.
So it's totally worth it.
Yeah.
We recently released a document called The Storytelling Pathway on our website. It is our playbook for success, for growing brands, for marketing. That's literally everything that we do at 6th Avenue Storytelling, and we want to share it with the world. We want to give it to you.
So in addition to these nuggets that you're learning on this podcast, you can get our free playbook, free manual for how you grow your business from
6th Avenue Storytelling. Yeah, it's the storytelling, and it's really, really good.
Where do you find it?
It's 6thAvenueStorytelling.com.
There you go.
And it's good. Go get it. Go download it. I promise it's going to help your business.
like I wanted someone to look at me when I was going through the diagnosis process and be like, I'm going to figure it out for you. But I was constantly being told, I'm sorry, I don't know what this is. We're going to biopsy it. But like, I don't know, you'll find something.
So you see yourself as an advocate.
Yes.
For an advocate and a voice. And
for women who need something that are going through really hard. That's why I call it Chronicles of Frivolity, because all of that's frivolous, but like it's helping people in their life.
What is frivolous?
Just
like makeup and...
Yeah. I mean, just spending money on stuff that's not really essential, but it's helping people feel more normal. And so that's my why, that I think in the grind, not only are you trying to build a website and get partnerships and learn how to work a camera and learn how to manage people, but I was up until midnight emailing these girls back who were asking me all these questions. And that was what I think, that was what took the longest time, because you can become a content creator today. You can hire a photographer, take these photos, but if you don't have people reaching out, sharing their personal stories with you and trusting you to help them during some of the hardest times of their life, like that's where the connection is. And that's where you tell these brands, like, your product isn't just a product. We're getting it in the hands of people that need it for a reason.
And we've focused a lot on the money, how do you make money? But a lot of what you're doing is I want to help, because it goes back to that. In that moment in your room, I have this thing, health thing I'm fighting. And I want to advocate and learn and help people. And so were you posting were you honest about your health stuff? Not honest or transparent? Were you telling people about that?
I've always been transparent. I've never shared photos or anything from that period of my life. But I've always shared that because I want them to know, like, you can trust me with what you're going through and why you need these products, because this is what I've been through.
The name. So the name I read. It came from like a Karl Lagerfeld quote. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, that did not come. My name didn't come from that, but my website rebrand kind of did. Yeah.
Okay. But were you calling it Chronicles of
Frivolity? Yeah, it's always been called that.
And that, so you kind of went into this too with a little bit of like self-deprecating.
Oh, I'm very self-deprecating.
Knowing that this is a little frivolous, but also knowing like it makes people feel normal.
Right.
And I found somewhere a quote from your grandma about feeding.
Yeah, my great-grandmother would say, in order to tell people about Jesus, you have to feed them. And so I kind of view this as my feeding. Like, you're going to be Googling, what's a concealer that can help me with dark circles under my eyes because I have a newborn and I'm not sleeping. Yeah. And maybe you'll find a post of mine and I can tell you what that concealer is and I can rank them for you. But then ultimately what I want to share is my faith. And what really got me through that time in my life was my faith. But this frivolous stuff kind of helps you feel a little bit more normal so you can focus on that.
Yeah, but I mean, in some aspects, like, you're restoring dignity, you're restoring confidence, you're restoring assurance, you're restoring, some of these things that, like, people might pay counselors, a lot of money to get. I'm not saying don't obviously go see a counselor, but what I'm saying is there is something bigger there, and there's a bigger heart there, and it might not be your faith, but it is something that it ties in with that, where
absolutely,
it's self-esteem, or it even, even like the customer with the cancer, that right there, that relief, even
right,
like that's something that's bigger. And it seems like that why is almost like what got you through the grind and what keeps you going. That's something that's like, it's bigger than yourself.
Right. I say anytime I write a blog post, I think of someone who's emailed me looking for this and their personal story for that. And I keep a folder where I've saved things of people asking me for different products and why they're looking for it. And so I kind of save that. And so that's what I think.
Do you have any other kind of like memorable one time this person reached out, and
I think what's really cool is a lot of women have been able to share like their infertility struggles with me, because they'll say, hey, what are some tops I can use? Because when you go through IVF, you can gain weight from the hormones. And they're like, And
did you struggle with infertility?
No, my son is a miracle and I had a crazy pregnancy with him, but I did not struggle with infertility. But I do have a heart for it. My sister and I are 8 years apart because my mom had 5 miscarriages. Wow. And so, the women will reach out and say, like, I'm going through IVF, I've lost these babies, I'm fluctuating 10, 15 pounds. I don't want people to notice at work, what's a top I can wear to hide that? And I'll send them the links and help them find it. And then it's so cool because like 2 years later, they'll send me like pictures of their babies. And so anytime that I get to see that and they follow up, like, that is such a joy for me.
That's really cool.
And like at that moment, it's like, yes, you can argue that a top is frivolous, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But it's not. It's a big deal to that person at that moment. And you are willing to like step into that place with them in something that's seemingly frivolous to everybody else except for that one person at that very moment. And that's huge. That's pretty neat.
Was there a was there a moment where you were like, oh my gosh, this is working? Like, this is
yeah, when did the grind end? That's the question.
Was there
why got you through the grind? When did it end? When is it like?
I think when I had my daughter, I'd been doing it for 5 years, and I started to realize, like, okay, like if I don't respond to something within an hour, like, life goes on, and okay, this is kind of working.
So you slowed down, but you were successful way before them, right?
Yeah, I mean,
was there a point where you were like, oh my gosh, I've done it. This is real.
Before I got married, Netflix had called, or a producer from Netflix, and they were trying to do a reality show with Dallas bloggers, and they really wanted me on it. And I remember being like, no.
You said no?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, why did you say
my
no?
My dad would kill me. My parents would kill me, but I would never do it.
They don't like Netflix?
Oh, they love Netflix, but like reality TV, no.
Like reality TV?
I'm like so reserved too. I could never, and I'm not dramatic, and I'm a people pleaser. They would have fired me.
But you were like, hot dang, Netflix is calling me.
Oh, well, I remember calling my dad and being like, oh, they asked me to do that. That's weird. And then they were following up. And I was like, this is really weird. And I got to teach at the Reward Style Conference and little things like that early on. And I was like, oh, okay. So I think some people maybe respect what I do. I don't know. But you want to know what I thought was so big? Okay.
I feel like that's an Enneagram 1. She's like, the success happened way before that. I would have said 10,000 followers would have been my success.
No, I joke. I say this, and I say this with all the love in my heart because I love Neiman Marcus so much. But I applied for a job there when I was in college, and they rejected me. And
Neiman Marcus rejected you?
Yes, they were like, no, you can't work for us.
Fools.
But no, I work with them now on like a marketing standpoint, and I'm like, oh, you don't hate me, okay? So like, you just didn't want me to sell clothing, but like, I can sell clothing online for you. That's cool.
Yeah,
take that, Neiman Marcus.
So I think when they reached out, I was like, oh, okay, you don't hate me.
So you felt legit when Neiman Marcus reached out.
Yes, for sure. I was like, oh, Mom, see, they rejected me when I was 19, but they're accepting me now.
That's really cool. Was there a point at all where it like wasn't working? Was there a point where like, why am I doing this? This is not going well.
Yeah, I mean, 2020, if you can survive working content creation in 2020, that's probably, there were a lot.
Did some of your
times.
sponsorships like stop or dry up? Or?
Well, so I was pregnant with my son, and in January, I had a really rare. So January of 2020, I was about 18 weeks pregnant, and I had a really rare pregnancy complication with him that less than 1% of pregnancies have. And my life was kind of on pause because they hadn't really seen it before, and they were putting me on and off bed rest to kind of see if it would heal it. I was being told.
While you were pregnant?
Yes.
Okay, so you were just
stuck
in bed?
Yeah, they would take me off sometimes so that he would grow. So I had this hemorrhage.
For how long?
Well, from 18 weeks until I delivered at 39 weeks.
Whoa.
But I had a hemorrhage the size of him, and he had an issue with the cord. And so basically I was just, you can have hemorrhages in your first trimester, but they usually heal. You can have hemorrhages on and off, but they heal. But mine just wasn't healing. And so, and it was moving along the placenta. And so he was just swallowing too much blood. And so from January to, I remember Valentine's Day, my MFM looking at me and saying, I'm so sorry, I haven't seen this before. You're either going to deliver him at, 20 weeks and you probably won't make it, or maybe we can make you to 27 weeks, but I don't know if he'll be okay. And so that happened. And then a thing called coronavirus came in March.
Oh, so this is all the same time?
All the same time. So yeah, February I was on bed rest, not knowing if he'd be okay. COVID happened, and all my brands were like, pause. Like, we can't work with you right now. There's a virus. It looks a bit tone deaf to be sharing, obviously, and we don't know what's going to happen. And all of our workers are having to go home because everyone I work with is pretty much based out of LA or New York. So they're all home. We can't do this. And then, through April and May, and we're transitioning from the virus to social justice issues. I'm just like, why am I sharing this stuff? Like, this isn't important. This isn't what we're working on. But also in the back of my mind, like, my world is falling apart because I didn't know if he would be okay until like the 35-week mark. And gosh.
Did you stop posting? Like, did you stop working?
I didn't know. My OB said keep working on, like, you need something to take your mind off of it. Okay. And so
you have a lot of anxiety and stress.
Yeah. And so I would share like banana bread recipes, like what every blogger was doing, like things that you didn't purchase them, but things that people still had some consistency in their life on social media.
People are home, and
they're looking at
social media more than ever.
Right. So I would share little things.
People kind of want to be entertained or something to do.
100%. They're like, okay, my whole world's falling apart. Let's have something be the same. And so I would share things. And I specifically remember this one moment, which, not to be like too graphic, but I was hemorrhaging my whole pregnancy. And so I'm like sitting in the bathroom hemorrhaging with my daughter, like texting my OB wondering, do I have to go to the hospital? Can I stay home? And I remember getting a notification on my phone from someone because I had shared banana bread. And I remember someone said, like, you're so clueless. You don't know what's going on in the world. You're an excuse of a pathetic excuse of a human, all this stuff. And I just remember feeling like I can't do this. Like I can't share my life, be ripped apart. And this woman, she's just hurting. So she's saying this to me, but she has no idea what I'm going through. And so I think being pregnant with him and going through that was really hard. And every week I was like, what'd you do? How'd you? I kept posting because I just needed some normalcy. And then when I got through it, I was like, okay, if I've survived that, like I can survive anything, And
that also, you pivoted a lot. Like when you started having kids, that kind of changed the direction.
Yes, I shared a lot of lifestyle because I think before kids, my why was women going through hard times need beauty products and clothing to help them feel more normal. Okay. And then when I had my kids,
help them feel beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And when I had my kids, I started to be like, gosh, there's a lot of women who are going through postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, and like they just want 5 minutes of an escape on social media. And so I can share that for them. And then I think specifically with my son, just realizing all that women go through in their period of birthing children and what that looks like. And so I do share a lot more family stuff now to kind of give them hope, because when I was pregnant with my son, I couldn't find anybody that had been through what I had been through, but I found one podcast and I found one girl on Instagram, and I would talk to them and they kind of gave me hope that my son would be okay, because I wasn't getting that from like doctors.
Yeah. And so have you gotten to share a lot of much of that yet? Or?
I did not share that while I was pregnant with him because I couldn't, and I didn't want people, I just didn't want to hear horror stories. But then when I had him, I remember sharing like 2 weeks after, like, he's such a miracle. And I don't think people really got it because I didn't share. They were like, oh, yeah, every baby's a miracle, And then I wrote a blog post a couple months later, like, sharing all that. And they were like, I can't believe you kept blogging. Like, you didn't share that. And I didn't want to hear the horror stories.
Yeah.
Were you nervous to share that?
Yes, because I think I'm so sensitive for what my mom's been through, and I have so many people that have gone through that and they do lose their babies, and I didn't want to be like, here's my son, but I wanted to give hope to women going through really scary pregnancies to say, like, your baby might be okay. Mine is.
What was the response from that?
It was really good. Like, it was women who'd been like, my sister had that, and here's the testing she went through, and just like the whole comments were women relating to each other and connecting, and here's my email, you can talk to me. And like, that's what I want this platform to be for.
Wow. Did you sort of have like an intentional, I'm pivoting, I'm changing, I'm like, was that that moment marker, or just sort of evolved? Like natural evolution?
I think it's a natural evolution because I always want to be really loyal to my lifestyle and my readers. And that's where, people always say, oh, are you going to share your kids or you're not going to share your kids? And I don't know if I'm doing it right or wrong, but I do know that I'm being mindful in it because I can't pretend my kids don't exist. Like, my life isn't, I go to an office all day and I'm not seeing them. My life is I'm home with them. And so I have to share them in a capacity. And so it's just kind of evolved with that. And I think what I naturally am excited about in terms of brands and content creation is related to that. So that's what I'm saying yes to.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
I have a few random. Well,
I have a few random questions too.
You have a few random questions.
No, you go.
What was I going to ask? So, I'm assuming too. Like, so how do you juggle it now? With kids? What does a day in the life of Katey look like? Like, do you still wake up at 5 a.m.?
I try to, but my 4-year-old's going through a phase where she crawls in bed at 3 a.m. And so, like, I'll try to wake up and get the laptop out, and then she'll wake up and she'll ask for, like, chocolate milk or something. And I'm like, okay, this is a fail. I either have to, like, sneak out to the kitchen or not. But I do get up early, get a lot of my work done. They go to preschool, or she goes to preschool, and I have a sitter that comes. And so I feel like I'm juggling all day until my husband gets home at night. And then I'm like, okay, bathe them, they're yours.
So you're doing work at night?
Yeah.
Oh, really? You still do? Are you a night person or a morning person?
I'm definitely a morning person. Okay. But I feel every time I respond to a brand, I'm like, I'm sorry, this is 10 p.m., but like, this is my reality.
And has the management team helped you kind of scale it?
Yes. My manager, I tell her, like, if she quits one day, I have to retire because I can't function without her.
Yeah.
And how like, and you're doing photo shoots all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you have to learn how to do that, like to model? Because you're kind of part model too. I mean, you're the star.
So
of the
my parents, my mom, I think I learned like how to be a work from home mom by my mom because she was a stay-at-home mom, but she always would do little things on the side to make money. So she worked for a wedding photographer and I would go to bridal fairs with her. And when my parents would shoot a wedding on the weekends, like they would always have me pose so they could get their lighting right. And so I would just chasing them around with cameras on the weekend, and that's what I did. So I think I've always been used to taking photos, but there's times that it feels awkward. I mean, I used to be able, like pre-kids, to really, like in Dallas, I'd go out and take photos and everyone's a blogger there. Everybody's taking pictures of themselves, so nobody cares. But in Fort Worth, when I moved back, I was like, oh, this is mortifying. Like, please don't, I can't do it. I can't do it. Yeah. So, but I've always been comfortable doing it.
Talk about Paul. So he's like the OG, like Instagram husband.
Yeah, but he's,
is he a good photographer now? Like, does he know the drill?
He is. He's a good sport. He's a good sport. He, most people that have done it as long as I do, their husband works for them. But he is an oil and gas CPA. Like, that's his passion. I'm never going to have him come, work on this side of it. But he's a really good sport, and he will always like.
When you're like on vacation or out and about, he knows the drill.
Yeah, and you're like,
you got to document this.
He's probably better at it than I am. Like, I'm the one when I'm on vacation with my kids, I'm like, I don't want to shoot. I don't want to do this. And he's like, babe, it's a minute. Let's just do it. Let's get it over with.
Well, he's a CPA. He's like, this means money, right?
No, exactly. He's like, babe, the percentage of 30 minutes doing this and then a day of this, it makes sense.
You
so
get
I'm
this
like,
per hour by
and I'm like
this,
the moral one, and I'm like, I don't want our kids to think that mommy has to always work.
Oh man, that's funny.
Do you feel a pressure to sort of always like be on, like to always?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, because your content calendar is like real estate, and if you're selling that but you're not providing organic content for people, and that's the thing, like every project I take, I kind of tell people, because the first thing they say when they meet me is they're like, oh, do you actually like the products you share? And I'm like, do you go in a boutique and talk to the owner and say, do you actually like what you sell here? Like, obviously, she went to market, she bought it all. Like, I have an agency that come to me every day with deals, and I say, I like that, I use that, I wouldn't use that. So I do like it, but I feel like people still have a jaded sense of trust with it. And so, yeah, I want you to see the organic content that I'm creating, where I actually am using these products and eating this food and wearing this, so that you're not just thinking that it's this one and done.
Because that's part of where the trust comes from,
of
too.
Course,
well, you're not allowed to share stuff you don't use. It's like, you can't like be like, I hate this.
Well, I do. I do that.
Oh,
yeah, all
you
the
say
time.
You hate it?
Yes, and then people email me and they're like, oh, you just need to use it this way. And I know they're trying to help. I'm like, no, I really just hate it.
It's tough luck. This is a crappy product. Okay, that's good.
Have you ever gotten like crazy people? Do you have like crazy fans? People that are a little weird.
That's political answer coming in 3.
No. Yeah, you see it with your kids. Like, I remember, there's a photo floating somewhere. She's probably 24 now. But the first time I took my daughter out and about, I took her to Nordstrom, and I was like, okay, we're going to shop and eat, and we're going to get into a normal groove now. And she was like 6 weeks old or something. And I was in the mother's room nursing, and this girl comes up to me and she's like, oh, are you Katey McFarlan? And I just was like deer in the headlights, because I'm trying to nurse this baby.
6 weeks. Yeah, you're exhausted.
I'm a new mom. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm just like, please don't come talk to me, because I don't know if I'm doing this right. And I was like, she's young. She's probably 18. Like, she doesn't know. But her mom came up, and her mom's like, oh, do you want me to take a picture? I was like, you know what I'm doing right now? I'm feeding my baby.
While you're nursing?
Yeah. And so the mom took a picture with her daughter, and I'm like deer in the headlights, baby on me. No. And I'm like, she walked away, and I was like, what just happened? And so I'm like, there's a photo out there somewhere where I look. So there's
what a weird thing to do.
There's instances like that. I mean, there's instances with my kids, which I have to be like really protective of and mindful of. Yeah.
But you'll be out and about, and people are like wanting to take pictures with you and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in Fort Worth, nobody cares. They're like, oh, that's that girl that takes photos of herself,
Takes photos of herself.
But have you ever gotten do you have like people that message you all the time?
Yeah, like I have people that I know, specific ones. I'm like, okay, yeah, they'll always have the same handle, and I'm like, oh yeah, they've been messaging me for 8 years. So people are loyal, which is awesome.
You build a connection.
Yeah, for sure.
But how do you deal with the super negative comments where they're like, you're an idiot because you did this, or like it's like they get personal.
Yeah,
with a quickness.
yeah. I mean, when I first discovered that happened, this was pre-marriage, and I remember, like, I don't Google my name. I would never do that, but I had to Google myself because.
Did you used to?
Well, I used to working in PR because I would try to see if my press releases had come out, because it'll always say like bye, and you know, instead of. I guess I just had that set up with Google Alerts. And I remember searching for a press release and like a forum came up. And I mean, at the time there were like 4 pages, and one person was like, oh, I went to college with her and she's so floundering. And I was like, I don't feel like I'm floundering. I'm working for myself, you know. But you start to see how harsh people get. And now it's so common with Reddit and all these different threads where people are on all day. I will say 2 things. I used to be really... I mean, I remember the first time I found it and just broke down crying and thought it was the worst thing in life. Now I'm just like, gosh, like if you hate people you've never met or because of their job, like what do you say about people you know? You know, so you feel for people that are in that instance where they feel the need to say that, and I also just don't care anymore.
Okay,
but it hurt. It hurt.
Oh, it for sure hurt. But
it's a growth season.
If you have that many people, I just look at like us, you know, our companies, and and I have like a micro fraction of the, but it still can be hard. Like it's still, and I like people to like me.
Right.
And I don't care.
You don't care.
I'm like whatever.
Yeah, you know,
it bums you out. It like ruins your whole day.
It does, but now I'm just like it's not my job. I kind of view all these online forums as like Satan's playground. And I'm like, if you want to play there, that's on you. It's not on me. And so as bloggers now, we all kind of, you know, we've been doing this for a decade. And so we all kind of share these people's, like we have their IP addresses. And we know certain people, like in Jacksonville, Florida, there's this one girl who she always changes her handle to be this, this, and this to troll us. And so we all kind of talk about it. And so when you see that this one person is trolling everyone, you're like, gosh, like, I feel for her because who's not around her to like help her with that, you know?
Do you genuinely feel that way? Because I'd be like, screw you. You're an idiot.
No, I do, because hurting people hurt people.
She's a way nicer person than you are.
I know. I would just be like, this person is such an idiot. I'm not, just delete their account, but you have the same IP address, but they give different handles.
Yeah, they switch their handles.
So you just ignore it. Like they do comments, you don't delete
I
them?
used to respond, and I used to be like,
that's what
Did you ever get in a fight, like a social fight?
Yeah.
No, I would just be like, I'm so sorry you felt, like I would try to justify what they were mad about. And I'd be like, this is why I did this, and you don't know me, but like they don't know me. So now I don't care, but I feel that they are isolated and alone because you see a pattern. I mean, doing this for 8 years, you definitely see a pattern.
So do you delete their comment or do you just
if
let
it's
it roll?
Constructive, I leave it. If it's like being
cursing
horrible, then I delete it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of...
Can I tell you a random story?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if I've told you this or not before. I think we might have established this connection. So you and I have kind of a random, interesting connection.
Okay.
That I found out. So I think at some point you had some sort of giveaway where you were giving away some sort of like calligraphy print or something. Okay. And Melissa won it.
Oh, really?
And so at my house, this envelope shows up and it has like cool kind of girly handwriting. And I was like, looked at the return address, and it's my old next door neighbor's address.
Really?
So that me and Melissa's first house, which when we were back door neighbors.
Yep.
You, I think, lived next door in what used to be Betty's house. Betty was like this 80-year-old lady.
Really?
And over kind of in Arlington Heights.
Yes, I lived on Birchmond.
But I was like, who is this person? This is our old next door neighbor.
Yeah.
And
you're like, who's sending that? No, it's funny. I was thinking, I feel like everybody in Fort Worth, I'm like, when did I meet Melissa? But like everybody knows Melissa, And I was like, what was that time that I met her? But that's so funny. I didn't know that.
We were like almost next door neighbors, but Betty, who used to live there, was this old, kind of, she was nice, but also crotchety. She ran over me one time and then yelled at me. She was like, you got in my way. And I'm like, you just hit me with your car.
No, but that is so that neighborhood. It's like young couples. And then I remember when we first moved in, one of our neighbors, he was older and he just walked out and he was like, let me show you the property line. And this is the property line. Man. I don't want your leaves on my property line. And I was
crazy
like,
guy that lived across the street. I don't know if he's still...
Yes. I remember being like, what does he do?
It's wild. Anyway, that's my random connection.
So
we were
funny.
almost neighbors.
I didn't even know that.
Okay, I got another random question.
Shoot.
Are we on to random questions yet?
So,
finish the story.
We should finish the story. So you got through. So you had your son.
Yes.
Who's now doing well. You kind of have a new purpose, a new mission, like
Right.
a new. Did you lose people at all when you pivoted?
Oh, for
to
sure.
that?
I mean, people were like, "Oh, I don't want to see kid stuff. I just want to see fashion." And people, especially last year, they were like, "This isn't what I want to see." And I was like, "I can't go march downtown in an outfit because no one's downtown right now." You know, like it was just different. And I want to be authentic, and so I don't want to make up this life because I think that's the difference with like blogging and then influencing, and it's sharing your life. And now I think the term influencer, there's a connotation with creating a life to share, and I don't want to do that. So
you just want to here's who
my
I actually
life,
am,
and so my life is that. And so there were definitely people that stopped reading, and that's fine. Like I want them to find people.
But you also probably gained a whole new audience,
Yeah.
Well, and they might come back if they move into that life stage.
For sure.
So what's next?
You know, I joke, so I tell everybody, I'm like, oh, I don't want to take a mirror selfie when I'm 35 because that's like what, how people love to see the outfits. But I do hope I'm still doing this in a capacity, but I hope that I can use my platform to still connect women going through infertility, high-risk pregnancies, like all those things that I went through. I don't know what that looks like. And I always tell my community group, I'm like, not next year, maybe not the next year. When my kids are in elementary school, this is what I want to do. But I want to.
You really don't know what that looks like? Based on what you've said thus far, I think
there's a room full of magazine cutout articles. And
I think you have a detailed plan.
I would like the website to have more of a focus on connecting women going through that.
And do you think it's still Instagram is still going to be kind of like the main vehicle, or do you see that changing or going into other things, or?
It depends on how many more things they roll out because now.
Are you TikToking? Are you a TikToker?
No, I can't do that.
You're a TikTok.
I'm not Gen Z. I don't know how to do that.
It's so much work to do
it
it.
is
TikTok.
so much work. So I think Instagram is here to stay, but I do think that people that have blogged for a while, it will go back to more of that.
Back to the old school blog. Do you still write as much? Like, do you still?
I do. I mean, right now I've taken a pause during holiday because I kind of got like all my holiday content up because everybody wants everything up now because of shipping delays.
Oh, you already did your Christmas stuff?
Oh yeah, we live like 3 months prior.
What?
Yeah.
So you were shooting Christmas stuff in
June.
Yeah, well, we started gift guides like end of August. So, but there's a pause right now, so people can read it all. But no, I still blog.
So your Christmas stuff is all like up on your website.
Yes.
Yeah, wow. Are you playing Christmas music yet?
Yeah, I like Halloween because my kids like it, but I love Christmas.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, love it.
Same.
So, but next you want to dive even deeper into the motherhood, pregnancy
for sure
world of things. I think that's really neat.
Yeah.
And that's such a hard. You don't realize how hard that is until you're going.
No, and I think our generation's the first generation that's like, hey, I'm going to talk about it. Because prior to then, it was very like, no, you don't talk about it. This is just what women go through. And I remember leaving the hospital. They held up my placenta and they were like, this is all black. We don't know how he's alive. And then I went home and I just remember thinking like, this is weird. Like nobody's come and checked on me and asked me how I am because here I am thinking this baby for 20 weeks is going to die and he's okay. Why is nobody talking about this?
Yeah.
And I think our generation is the first one to be like, no, you have to talk about this. If a mother is going to be the emotional backbone for her children, she's got to be okay.
I completely agree. You don't know until you get to that stage, and then you can talk about it with all of your friends, and then you're like, oh well, she had this, another person had this, and you're like, where did this world exist?
Yeah.
Who knew about this? And then you're kind of like your whole mind is, open to all these.
I tell people like
stories.
they kind of say like, oh, be grateful you have a baby, and it's like, no, I am, but like I've got to talk to other women going through this because if they feel alone, who's going to talk to them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you could give advice to your younger self, what would that be?
Hire people sooner.
And would that be the same if someone expound upon that real quick. Hire people sooner. Don't do it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, you always hear if somebody can do a job 80% as well as you can, hire them. And as an Enneagram 1, I was like, no, they need to be able to do a job 108% as well.
Can't relinquish control.
You know, it's funny. My sister's my graphic designer, and she's always like, well, you're my one client who really knows what they want because I'm like, voice memoing her. I'm like, this needs to be this way. This needs to be this way. But when you're spending all your time doing jobs that aren't bringing you the joy, like then you just feel burnt out. And so I wish that I would have hired people sooner.
Wouldn't have been as burnt out. I will say too, to the being a high maintenance graphic design client for your sister is your brand better than anybody else. And I think part of probably your success is like, I know what it should look like. I have a vision for it, and I'm like, have a high standard as well.
Yes. Which is why I hire my sister, because she's the only person
she can hang with it.
She's like, okay, I get you. I get your brain.
And if you could give any bit of advice for someone who's wanting to do what you do.
Or just start,
Don't do this because you want the outcome. Do this because you're passionate about a part of the puzzle. So I tell people, like, don't become a blogger because you want to be a blogger, because then you're never going to make money doing it. You've got to do it because you love storytelling. You've got to do it because you love photography. You've got to do it because you love to code websites or something like that, because you're always going to find joy in it. And every campaign isn't successful. You're not, to this day, there's a lot of things I fail at, and you've got to find your joy in that, because I think now people start this because they see people on Instagram and they're like, oh, I could take a photo of myself. I can make money doing that. And that's the smallest part of what I do, and probably the part that I celebrate the least.
Okay.
And so you've got to find, like, what is it that you would do doing that you love?
Yeah. Do you have any examples of like campaigns that flopped, or like style regrets?
Yeah,
like I can't believe.
Oh, well, sometimes I'll go through and post. So when my husband was taking my photos, so he was like a public accountant, CPA, and they work crazy hours during busy season. But I'd be like, okay, on a Saturday at 2, can you meet me and take these photos? And they're like crooked, cut off. The contrast is so high. I look back and I'm like, wow, how did I ever have a job doing this? I don't know if I can say brand. I really don't want to get in trouble. I don't see this. I'm not an attorney. I don't even read my contracts. I just have my manager.
So you posted a mystery brand.
So I posted, like, it was a parent company that shares a lot of like bath products. And I was like 23 or 24, and it was a 6-month contract. And this was my first long-term contract. So I was like, wow, I can pay my rent. This is amazing. And I was excited because it's brands that everyone knows. And I did use the products. I mean, who hasn't used? Everyone's used these products. And so I was like, okay, this is great. And I remember being at a Mavs game with my father-in-law and my husband, and my phone just went off. And it was like, I can't believe you're working with them. They treat their factory workers horrible, this and that. And I just, at that time, when I signed on for something, I just was thinking, yeah, I use that. Everybody uses that. That's cool. I wasn't thinking, who is this brand as a company, and who are they as a whole? Yeah. I was just thinking, wow, this is awesome. I already use it. It's already in my shower. They're going to pay me for 6 months. And so that was probably that moment that I was like, okay, this is bigger than I think it is. And I've really messed up here.
There's some weight.
And and I had to finish out the 6 months.
Did you ever wear anything that you're like, this?
Oh, yeah. Everything I look back and I'm just like, my poor kids are going to be like in computer lab one day, and they're going to Google their mom, and people are going to be like, Harry, look at your mom. What's she wearing? I'm like potentially forever embarrassed them.
Okay, so that's my question. Is the reason that I would fail as a blogger, influencer, we're not going to use that term, but blogger, is because I feel like, well, I guess there's bloggers that just like wake up in the morning, no makeup, like, whatever. And that's like their stick, that's like their thing. They're like, I'm just real, and this is who you get, whatever. But then I feel like, if you're in fashion, like you're putting on beauty products, it's like, you got to get put together every day. Like, and I would just like quit. Doing that, dressing up. This is about as dress up as I ever
as you get.
Yeah. And then 2, I would just be like, it's like the mail, like when mailman, they like go crazy because the mail never stops, it's like content.
Yeah, you got to keep showing up and showing up.
Oh,
it's like,
for sure.
I would be like, I'm taking a break. I don't want to do content for the next 3 months. Like, how does that?
The content's the easier part. I would say the hard part is direct message and emails, because think of how easy it is to email or DM someone. And then if they have 215,000 people that do that all day.
And your commitment is you like to respond to people.
Yes. And I've had to learn to stop. Like I've definitely, as I get older, I realize my margin, and I have to remind myself, like, at my funeral, no one's going to say she responded to emails really well, but my kids are going to remember, was she always on her phone or not? And so
that's part of how you built your phone is you were available.
For sure. And so I think I feel this hard sense of, there's one of me and there's 200,000 of them, but it was a lot easier to manage when there was 10,000, so I could respond. And as my readership has grown and my audience has grown, my life has grown with kids. And so what does that look like? And I'll talk to like Jenny Allen, because I'm always like, oh, Jenny, I bet a lot of people reach out to you. And she's like, I just do what I do, and she can only do so much. And so I think it's just knowing, okay, I have an hour today to answer DMs and emails, and I'm going to get to that. And it still pains me. I mean, every time I've given birth, I'm like, Paul, can you hand me my phone? Because I remember somebody asked about this and I need to respond.
And I'm assuming you're like a zero inbox person and a zero like.
Oh, well, I wish. I'd hired a girl this summer and she helped me with my inbox, and I would dictate to her while I cooked dinner for my kids. And I would just say like, hi, Sarah, thanks so much for reaching out. And this product will help you, and I can send you this, and da-da-da-da-da. And she would do that, but she was so good at her job, my management team hired her. So now she's working for them. And sometimes I'm like, can I have her back?
So it's not the content, it's the direct response.
It's the messaging.
But do you ever get tired of like you having to like take pictures all the time?
Oh, yeah, I'm sick of myself. I'm so sick of myself. If I have to look at myself again,
I feel like you're very real and like honest, and so it's like I would just get like, that's where it would drive me crazy.
Oh, yeah. Like yesterday we came home from church and we had lunch and I had to film like a beauty thing while my kids were napping. And I was just like, I don't want to look at myself anymore. This is nauseating. Yeah. Like people have to be sick of me. So yeah, I definitely get sick of myself.
Yeah. I would fail. I'd just give up right there.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone's asking you to be a...
Well, wait, hold on, wait. So you guys, are you guys saying I can't do this right now?
No,
what's going on here? Yeah. Well, shoot. Okay, I give up.
I could ask you if you
wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would need to be a 6th Avenue model, and just take pictures all day,
We could do a Q&A on my feed and be like, do y'all want to know how he does this?
Yeah.
All right.
My 10-second
I'm going to take us to like the lightning round, like the random crazy questions.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I'm going to ask one more serious kind of question.
Okay.
I'm going to ask kind of like a marketing question. Actually, I have 2 marketing questions. So decline in reach. I feel like Facebook and Instagram have just squeezed the crap out of things. Like you just can't. I feel so bad for like so many brands.
Oh yeah.
Like there's you post something, it's like a tree falling in the woods. Like no one hears it because they want you to pay for it. How do you combat that? Like what?
So your conversion matters most. You can have 800,000 followers, but it just depends on your conversion. And so the micro influencer is probably the most powerful. So someone who has, let's say, 40,000 followers, because people trust them more than someone, because there's like aspirational content, which if someone has 1 million followers, that's people maybe aspire, but they don't relate. Yeah. And so you still have your pocket that's loyal and your pocket that they trust the products that you share. And so you really hone in on that. So brands, I think, they don't really care what your following is as much. Now, it's interesting because, of course, readers do. They're like, oh, do you follow her? She has 400,000. But there's so many. I mean, people have bought bots. They've done comment pods. There's other things you can pay for to kind of fake your engagement. People, exactly. But you have to take care of that audience that is loyal and constantly engaging and responding to them.
And so that's
how you kind of combat this algorithm. Now, it is frustrating because...
and what do you mean by that? Like just by responding to them or by asking good questions?
By responding, by creating content with them. And I mean, I would say 90% of content creation for me is offline. And it's the emails, the DMs, the sending a reader a product because she can't find it in stock. And then, when I take the time to help her, then she's obviously going to share me with other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's how you combat the reach is by focusing on your small, loyal fans, and then that reach is how it actually gets.
Not trying to necessarily go wide, but going like deeper with.
That's really interesting.
That's a good nugget. What's the best like marketing thing you've ever done? Did you ever have like any thing that helped you kind of blow up?
I think creating series helps a lot with people knowing what to expect. And
series,
so, like, for example, I used to always be like, oh, I'm going to be like Dear Abby, where people, reach out and then I can answer. And so I would create Dear Katey once a month. And so I knew, and I do like Friday Q&A where people know, okay, she's going to take 8 hours and answer questions that we send. And so
every Friday you do it?
Every Friday I do. I mean, unless I have something
for 8
with my
hours.
Kids. Well, I really started on Thursday night because then I'm able to lay in bed and answer more. But yeah, it kind of goes into Saturday too. But yeah, so I think series for people knowing what to expect. They want to know what content they expect from you, and so I would say that helps a lot with marketing. It's just planning consistency, and you can you look at how much percentage you want to do. You want to share 10% behind the scenes. You want to share 40% educational, maybe 30% entertainment.
Do you know your percentages?
Yes.
Shoot.
Well, that's like that. I mean,
Those
it's personal,
10%.
educational, and then you want to entertain, and then you want to help. And so those are kind of like the Q&A and things like that.
And you're doing that like 3 months in advance.
Yeah, so I take my editorial and I color code it. So I'm like, Monday, I'm going to share this tutorial, and that's going to be considered educational. And then, the promotion and sales side is if a tutorial was with a brand, but I try to do it, without to give them that. And so then, the 10% personal, that's just my real life. And I'm home cooking with my kids, and that's what I share. And so I try to map it out. And then when I see that something's not working or they're not engaging, then I can switch those percentages up to see, okay, maybe they want 20% personal. Now, I always go off of like my favorite Steve Jobs quote is, I think it was something like, if the customer knew what they wanted, I wouldn't have created the iPhone, because I think there's a give and take there. Like they may request something, but that's not what they're actually being actionable on. Yeah. So you kind of have to play around with it.
And so one of my favorite things I say a lot is no one wakes up with 200,000 followers. No one wakes up, I want to get in shape and get ripped. No one wakes up ripped. You have to have a plan and be intentional and show up. And I think, one thing I want people to take away from this conversation is just the intentionality and the thought and the work and the planning that goes into creating something like that.
For sure.
For it to work. Do you have any?
Yeah. Okay. Legacy. So the plan is to kind of keep going for a while. Like at the end, is there a stopping spot to this? Has that even occurred to you as a thought? And then 2, I'm not going to ask this as a question. I'm going to say it as a statement. I feel like you are just one of the I feel like you were one of the experts in this field. Is there any sort of education piece coming? Is there a book you want to write? Is there you want to help other people in their journey with blogging, influence, whatever, social media campaigns? I
always say I'll do this until my kids tell me to stop. The day that my kids come home from school and they're like, Mommy, so-and-so said you did this. I don't want you to do it anymore. Then I wouldn't do it. I've taught blogging workshops before. I had a workshop with my friend Ashley, and we did it to help people start blogs. And I actually pitched a book back in January, and I would love to do that. But
is it going to happen?
They told me books don't sell. So, I was like, I don't know if I agree with that. So if somebody wants me to write a book, I'll do it. No, I would love to do a book.
Stories of Soul, sponsored.
We'll be your publisher.
Katey McFarlan story. Man, okay.
But legacy, what do you think legacy? What does that word mean?
I mean, it sounds corny, but I just want my kids to be proud of me. I want to show my kids, specifically my daughter, that you can be a woman and you can do both. Because I think when I was growing up, it was you stay home with your kids or you're going to go to an office. So what do you want to do? And when you're 18, I didn't have kids. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so this hybrid role, I think that's what's so cool to me about Fort Worth is there's just so many women doing this hybrid role that own businesses and their kids are right alongside them. And I feel really grateful to raise my kids in a community where they can see that, because you can be told that, but you have to see it. Yeah. And that's the legacy I want to leave for my son, to know that women are just as powerful as him and they can do it in different ways and they have different skill sets, and that my daughter can know when you go to college, you don't have to pick between the two, because I think that was maybe what we taught women 30 years ago. And I don't want her to feel that way.
Yeah. And I think there's something really cool too about what you have done is you are very self-made, no one handed this to you. Right. It's like you did it. You built this thing.
No, and I want to teach them they can do that. So I think my legacy is, I hope my readers know that for me, it's not about money in this. If it were, I would have a completely different business game plan. It's definitely about helping them find those things, those frivolous considered items. But for my kids to know, like, she just really wanted to show us she could work and be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
I think you've done it. You've done that.
Yeah, and it comes through. It's come through this whole time we've been talking. Your why, and I think your why didn't leave, but it got added on to with kids,
Thank you.
So you can definitely see that.
All right, I'm gonna take us into less serious land.
Okay.
For a season, if you had to wear one outfit for the rest of your life, what would that outfit be? You can't change over and over again.
A dress I could chase my kids in, so probably what I'm wearing now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Favorite beauty product of all time? You have one beauty product only.
Oh, you're going to make me pick. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to hurt so many people's feelings.
Hurt them. And you're going to make one person really happy.
Like whenever you say beauty product,
Just like favorite thing. This
no,
is my
like
go. I have
is
to
it
have
like
this.
lipstick? Is that what you mean,
I don't
or is it
know.
like a
It's
brand?
Like a thing. Like I'll tell you mine.
What?
What's yours?
What's deodorant?
My blue little chapstick.
Your blue
right here.
chapstick?
I have it in my pocket all the time.
Oh man,
you
That's
know,
not bad. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Gosh, one thing. I mean, I love the Tula Face SPF. It's really good.
Okay, you wear that every day,
Yeah, every day.
So just face sunscreen.
Yeah, you gotta have sunscreen. Yeah.
Okay.
and that's a new thing.
Yeah. Well,
I don't.
we have a whole new world on sunscreens of what you have to look
Yeah.
for and not look for. Yeah.
That's your go. That's good. And that will
That's
if
a
you
good-
were on a
Yeah, I mean,
desert,
it's not
That's
what
a
I'm
practical
using
thing right
the
there.
most, but it's the
it
most
will
practical.
save you the
Yes.
yeah.
I
If
can
you're on a
get behind
desert
that.
island, that would be a good thing to have.
Yeah, you gotta have vitamin C, some retinol, and SPF. And you can be good.
What is your favorite book, or like most gifted or recommended book?
Can I pull up my Audible?
Yeah.
Because I send this to people. Well, I always send people Lisa Turkhurst, It's Not Supposed to Be This Way, because I feel like with mothers, that's, they're going through these really hard things. I have
Say that one more time.
Lisa Turkhurst, It's Not Supposed to Be This Way.
And that's about mother.
It's about going through loss in anything in life. And that's probably what I send readers the most.
Okay, interesting.
Just because they're usually going through loss when they're reaching out to me. And I think it's the most helpful. And I really have 2 iPhones right now because although I work on the internet, I can't even transfer an iPhone. To Hell with the Hustle by Jefferson Bethke. I really like that.
I like the
I always
name
tell
of that.
people to listen to that.
And
on
what is that? What?
I mean, he's just talking about like you've got to rest, and then I think as someone, for me, I don't. I think when podcasts came out and they were all about work hard, I wouldn't listen as much because I can get really toxic with that because I can be like, great, okay, I should work until 1 a.m. now and I'll sleep for 3 hours. And so I need to be told, like, you've got to rest. You're not going to have content to create if you don't have a life to live.
We need to read that. What's the book that you and I both read?
Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Yes.
Have you read
it's
that?
very similar to that.
Oh, that was that kicked
It's
my
really
butt.
good.
That's a good one.
That kicked my butt. What is so you also do a lot of like lifestyle recommendations, things you're doing for work.
Yes.
Go-to date night, favorite date night.
Oh gosh, I'm so we want to go to a restaurant without kids. So we love
Just any restaurant.
Any restaurant where I'm like
Anything
not putting down placemats and coloring and like picking up Cheerios off the floor. We love Provender Hall, and then we'll go get a drink at Hotel Drover.
Oh, Hotel Drover's so fun.
It is so fun.
Pretty rad.
But then I want to be in bed by 10. So,
Because you got to be up at 5.
I
No,
gotta be up at
3 now
5.
with the kid. With the kid getting in the
3
bed.
a.m.,
Yeah, 3 a.m.
Yeah. But we
like
love
it.
Provender. And I heard you say earlier, you were like, yeah, everybody's in the stockyards. So we started going to Provender Hall when it opened. And I was like, wow, I mean, when you're in Fort Worth, you know people go to the stockyards. But I mean, recently you've got to know people go to this. I mean, it is packed.
It's packed. Shout out to Marcus Pasley, chef of Provender Hall.
It's really good.
We need to have him on here.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
him.
I think you said this on Carrie's podcast. I'm like, yeah, you said this earlier when you were talking about Mule Alley and everything.
It's so
And I was
cool.
like, it is really
It's
cool.
a new fun thing in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Okay, one other random question. Okay, I've said okay a lot, but I'm prefacing with what I have to say because it's kind of funny to me. Is you always have really killer closets.
Oh, gosh.
Tell me about the
yes.
story of your closets. Do you have a closet guy?
Yeah,
Are you the closet girl?
Inspired closets in Fort Worth did mine. No, okay.
You have these massive, manicured, organized, special closets.
Really neurotic. No, so when we lived in Heights and we were looking at homes, I think my realtor wanted to just die because I was like, I have to have storage. And she's like, Katey, this is your budget. You want to live in an old home. You're not going to have a closet. And I was like, but I have to. And so we had in the back of the house, I don't know what it's considered, maybe like a playroom, but there really wasn't a closet in there. And it was like a door to the master. And I was like, I'm just going to turn this into a closet, which I got so much hate for. People were like, oh, there's people starving and you have a room for a closet. I was like, I know, I'm sorry, but that's my office.
That's fine.
I have to have organization. Yeah. So I did that. And then we had built a home and there was a closet there. But then when we moved into another old neighborhood here, the closet space, it was an issue. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to make it work. It'll be fine. And it was just my husband kept being like, please put a closet in one of these rooms. Please do this. Please do this. This is a nightmare. I've got clothes everywhere. We can't function. Yeah. And so I called up Inspired Closets and they did a really great room. And so I store all the things I'm going to share and the things that I'm working on kind of in there. So
but I mean, they're like a work of art.
Yeah. Oh, well, they did phenomenal.
This is so beyond. I am.
They're crazy, dude. I've seen it because they're always in the context of like, I need a closet like this.
You do?
Not me. That's in the context of Melissa.
I have like 22 shirts at least.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how my husband is. My husband's like, I don't know, give me a box I can put my clothes in it. And I'm like, okay.
I need like 2 drawers and like, a half rack.
No, people will always reach out to me and they're like, you only have one dresser in y'all's bedroom. Like, where does Paul put his clothes? I'm like, I don't know, somewhere.
That's exactly right.
This is his box over there.
I don't know, his little box somewhere.
I can't. I'm excited whenever your son gets to be like 4, 5, 6, he's gonna be like, taking pictures and stuff. Have you gotten there with your daughter yet?
Well, no. So my rule when I had kids was I said I'm never going to force them to take a photo. Like if they want to, when they're babies, they're on my hip.
I force my kids to.
You have to.
Well, no, for like Halloween, I'm like, for family real photos, I'm like, okay, smile if you want to go trick or treating. Like we need this for our family photos,
okay.
but for work photos, And then if they do it and it's a product for them, I put money in an account for them that they can have when they're 18.
That's awesome.
That's a cool thing.
Dang,
yeah,
so
like
smart.
I never want to. Then I don't want them to ever be like, oh, mom made money off me. No. So when they were babies,
trying to figure that out.
They would always be on my hip and like in photos because that's what I didn't have a sitter. I didn't know what I was doing. But then now, what's so funny is now that my daughter is 4, like she loves it and she wants to be in photos. And she's like, she doesn't understand.
Good at it?
Oh, she loves it. She's like, Mommy, take a photo of me. And I was like walking out the door the other day and she goes, Mommy, wait, we've got to take an outfit picture. And she'll take her little camera. And she's like, cheese.
Oh, that's so cute.
So my daughter, that's actually, I have the opposite problem with her. Whereas, now that she's older, I definitely get freaked out about people know who she is. And like we'll be at the park and people are like, there's Maxie. And I'm like, please don't be in photos, baby. Can you go see? So then she cries and then I'm like, oh no. And so I'm like, okay, you can be in these photos with me. But my son is 18 months and he's crazy and just runs. So he's like not in anything. And it's funny because people will see bloggers and if they have like a son, they're always like, you don't love your son. And I'm like, no, there's boys. They don't want to be in these photos at all.
He's destroying his toys over there.
So I never make them. So my contracts with brands, like if it's a kid product, it always says like, you can't control if my kid's in it or not.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You've already thought through all of this stuff. That's
my kids, awesome. So one, Rosie loves taking selfies. I'll get my phone, there'll be like 10,000 selfies of her.
Yeah. Max will be like, selfie. I'm like, how do you know that word?
Yeah, and she knows she can unlock my phone now.
Yes.
But then when I want them to take pictures, like especially Justice, cannot look at the camera.
No, Maxie can't either. And do you know what to do? Somebody told me they put a photo of a sticker on their phone of like Minnie Mouse or Mickey or something. And I looked at their phone. I was like, why do you have a Mickey Mouse on your phone? They're like, I just say, look at Mickey.
I'm like, look at me. And that she immediately turns sideways and like looks into the air. I'm like,
no,
look at Daddy.
Maxie will take like a family Christmas card photo and she's like looking up in the sky. I'm like, what are you looking at?
Yeah. So, and grandparents do the same thing, I found.
Yeah.
Like, so like the kids are looking at the grandparents are.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other lightning round questions?
No. Well, how can everybody knows how to reach you. I was going to say, what do we reach out? But
at Katey McFarlan on Instagram.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Follow. If you're listening to this, you probably already do follow.
You absolutely do. You don't follow this podcast. You already follow Katey.
Yeah, you're your own city. You're like the mayor of Katey Land.
No, I'm not.
That's right.
No.
All those people in one place.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we could yes, you would be the mayor.
Yeah, you would be the mayor.
The queen mayor.
No.
Yeah, or the queen's even better.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Okay.
No.
Katey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks
this is
for
so.
having
What
me.
you do is I'm going to say some nice stuff at the end. What you do is really cool. I mean, not a lot of people do it, and not a lot of people have had the success that you've had. And I think if you've listened to this, if you've made it to the end, we're like 100 minutes in now, it is evident that you are very humble and that you're very sincere and that you are like the real deal. You care, you're genuine, and it's just neat. So congrats on all your success. We're going to be excited to continue to follow.
That's right.
And so thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's my first podcast.
Ever?
Yeah, I've done TV before, but I'm always like, I'm so, I have nothing to say. But this was good.
Now you're never allowed to do any other podcast.
Your story is great, and your heart really comes through.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway for me is your why and your heart. Like that is what has sustained you and pushed you into to success. So
thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, guys.
That's it.
We're out.
Congratulations, you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Stories with Soul. If you enjoyed the interview and like what you heard, please help us out and share, subscribe, and like anywhere you listen to podcasts. When you share and subscribe, it is insanely helpful and allows us to keep producing new episodes. You can always join us directly in the studio by watching the video version on our website, 6thAveStorytelling.com. Stories with Soul is brought to you by 6th Ave Storytelling, an organic marketing company building standout brands on the foundation of story. You're obsessed with your business, and we want to make the world obsessed with it too. Thanks for listening.